What's up, everybody? This week, John is joined by Greg as we sit down and talk about a cartoon that is underrated for its time, that gives a moral message, and is entertaining. We're talking about Nickelodeon's Doug. That and a whole lot more is to come on this week's episode of the 90s Podcast. Welcome to the show. What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the 90s Podcast right here at the Because of Me Network. Hope you're doing well today, and I'm joined this week by Gregg Gregory. Greg, how are you, man?
Hey, good. How's it going, man?
Doing pretty good. It's good to be back. Thank you for coming on. I know you have a real busy schedule these days, and it's good to have you on. And
yeah, man.
We're going to dive right into this week because this week is a little close to my heart. We're going to talk about one of my favorite cartoons growing up, and we're talking about Nickelodeon's Doug.
Yeah, man.
So
one of the classics. One of the must watches of the Nickelodeon stuff. Yeah.
It really is, and we'll get into the decline later, but this was a very yeah. We'll get into that. If you listen to our Forrest Gump episode, you'll know that a classic John rant is coming along at some point.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. If you haven't heard that one, to all those listening, you need to listen to that one. Sarah and John ones are always really good, but that one, yeah, there's some really valid points and some very thought-provoking analysis in that one. So without giving too much away, yeah, you want to check it out.
You need to check it out, especially if you believe, like I do, that Jenny was done dirty. Yeah. But no, we're talking about Nickelodeon's Doug. I loved this cartoon growing up. I really did. It was one of the first American cartoons I saw that wasn't Bugs Bunny or Mickey Mouse or Daffy Duck or anything like that. It was the first series that I saw, because this came out when I was like 7 or 8. So
yeah, I was pretty young too. I remember. Yeah.
So it really grabbed my attention because Doug daydreamed. And was very vivid in his daydreaming, and I used to daydream all the time. Now they call it ADHD, but I daydreamed, a lot of the time, and it kind of spoke to me, especially with some of the other cartoons that were out at the time, because there weren't too many British cartoons out there aside from maybe Danger Mouse and Count Duckula, but the American cartoons weren't coming over as fast as the British ones were being made, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So it kind of maybe just got lost in the shuffle a little bit.
Yeah, because what it was in the UK, right, is schools let out at 3:00, right? All
right.
Schools, and they'd start at 9, kick out at 3, and at 3:30, the TV channels would start their afternoon block of kids programming. It's like the first half an hour would be preschool, then it would be kids, and then it'd be teens. Right. And a lot of the UK ones, they had game shows and I don't want to say chat shows, but like kids dramas, kids comedy shows, stuff like that, live action stuff.
Yeah. And
then they throw a cartoon in there. And it was only when I got cable for the first time that I saw other cartoons outside of, the Bugs Bunny and the because like I'd rent a tape every couple of months from the video store that was nothing but Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner cartoons.
Yeah.
And so that was my exposure to it. I was 8 years old, finally got cable, and bang, there's this kid daydreaming, and it spoke to me.
Yeah, I think anyone watching it could say it's a very relatable show, because it's kind of the character is like on the surface is very down to earth.
Yeah.
So he was very relatable, especially to kids our age, because it was showed someone who had hills and valleys, struggles, love, bullies, problems, so it was just, yeah, it was a more realistic take from Nickelodeon. It's like Ren and Stimpy was really abstract and like over the top. Yes, yeah. Rocco was same way. It was real gross and just like overdone, over the top. But this was more like, the dude writing in his journal about how he had a bad day at school.
Yeah.
Like something that's literally happened to everyone in the world. It hit really close to home, and it was just just a really good show. Just everything about it, top to bottom, very good, well made.
And not only that too, it did suffer a little bit because you mentioned Ren and Stimpy, and it came out the same time as Ren and Stimpy and Rugrats.
Yes, yeah,
And
yeah.
so, out of the three of those, you had one which was a cute cartoon about, babies going on adventures and stuff like that. It was a fun little show, right?
Yeah, totally.
And then you had Ren and Stimpy that was basically fart jokes for 30 minutes.
It's on acid.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's an acid trip, like this esoteric journey, like through the bowels of the mind. Like it's crazy. Yeah, I mean, and there was so much innuendo, and it was borderline adult. I mean, but I mean, when you compare Doug to that, it's almost more like an Arthur type show.
Yes.
It's almost like wholesome. I mean, it kind of walks the line. I mean, there's some stuff in it that's you could argue otherwise for being completely wholesome, but it's a wholesome-ish
vibe.
Take. There's a moral. There's, I learned something today.
Yeah.
They don't say that necessarily, but at the end, he's always talking, like reflecting in his journal about the event.
Yes.
And, like taking something away from it each and every time. So yeah, there's more substance in this one. So it kind of stood out for that reason.
Well, this show was an animated show, which is like, and it did have some of its comedic moments, but it was kind of relatable, as we've mentioned.
Yeah.
And it was created by a gentleman by the name of Jim Jenkins, not Jenkins, Jenkins.
Jenkins.
Yes.
With an I.
My word processor decided to change it to Jenkins every single time.
It's like nope, and you're like nope. I want that.
when I was doing the wrestling episode, I had the word "now" written like 100 times in my script, and it was supposed to be NWO. So like now, that's wrong. The now,
like but, the heater fight in on that one. I can't remember what soda was, but it was something about, it was a typo about a heater fight. And I was like, what the? And you're like, it broke my brain. I didn't know what to say. Yeah, that was good stuff. Anyway.
This show was exclusively on Nickelodeon. Now, I know there's going to be some smart aleck in the comments, or somebody's going to write on social media and say, well, hang on a minute. I remember distinctly watching this on the Disney Channel.
And you
did. You were not hallucinating. You did see this on the Disney Channel. And correct. We will talk briefly, well, not briefly, we will talk in rant form about the Disney version of the show when it's time. But we're focusing on the 4 seasons that were made for Nickelodeon. 52 episodes, written by Jim Jenkins, David Campbell, and Vanessa Coffey. Basically, this came from Jim Jenkins' sketchbook. He was trying to make, a Peanuts-style script. Peanuts-style comic strip.
Yeah, okay, I could see that. I could see, like, there's, some of the style, maybe he derived a little bit of that from it as well, so.
Yeah, so he basically, this was going to be in newspapers and magazines and stuff like that. That's what his intention was, and then all of a sudden, nobody was interested in it. Nobody was really interested in it at the time. It wasn't a funny thing, and this was before reflective comics were a thing.
Yeah.
Because right now the internet is full of reflective comics and reflective stuff like that. But nobody was interested in the late 80s in something like that, which is a shame because that's like the peak of newspaper at that time.
Sure, but like the animation was like so like in your face and just so like out there at the time. It probably seemed boring. It probably seemed they probably looked at it and said, this is great, but we'll probably never be able to sell it.
Yeah, probably. And like they'd made comic strips into cartoons around that time for kids. Like you had the Garfield.
Yeah.
Even though the strip was made for that was a great show.
It was fantastic.
Interesting fact about Garfield, and Ghostbusters. The voice actor who did Garfield and Ghostbusters is a gentleman whose name I can't remember. I'd have to look that up now because that's going to drive me crazy. But basically put, this guy voiced Garfield and voiced Peter Venkman, right? In the Ghostbusters cartoon. Well, as we all know, so it was Gerald Lorenzo Music who did Peter Venkman and Garfield. Well, Venkman and Garfield were played by Bill Murray in the live action things.
Yeah.
So, and he did a really, really good Bill Murray impression.
Yeah, I was about to say, because I remember seeing that and thinking that it was kind of in the style, even though it wasn't necessarily him. It was still kind of that drawl, very dry, kind of like.
Because I had to look, when I looked it up, I was like, Dave Coulier? No.
Yeah.
Because he actually took over the role after a couple of seasons of Venkman. But
he's a good voice actor, but yeah, I mean,
he is a really good voice actor, and he's inspiration for Alanis Morissette too. And
right.
believe it or not, TLC.
Really? Wow, he got around.
Yeah, he apparently is the inspiration for the song "No Scrubs."
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So he's inspiring artists everywhere. Wow. Okay.
Inspiring generations of women to rap off anthems towards him. That's
wow.
That's a great career highlight.
He's like a reverse Dave Grohl.
Oh, let's not talk about Dave Grohl right this second.
Oh yeah,
he's in hot water right now.
Oh, poor guy.
Oh.
Yeah, I saw some people taking some jabs at him today. Like, there goes my hero.
Yeah, I know. His wife wasn't getting the best of him. I mean, just. The second one associated with that was, I've got another confession to make.
Yeah.
Poor Dave.
Man.
I mean, nice guy, but you kind of deserve this. You deserve the ridicule at the moment.
I mean, you play with fire, sometimes you get burned.
But back to Doug real quick. The show was largely autobiographical of Jim Jenkins growing up.
Yeah, and that was symptomatic of the time. There's a lot of shows that were doing that. The Simpsons. Yeah. I mean, this was slightly before. This predated some of those ones I'm going to mention, but that I would argue that this is one of the ones that kind of set the precedence for that.
Yeah, people
started modeling after their own lives because our own lives can be stranger than fiction.
Oh yeah,
everybody's got their own story, their own angles. So yeah, it's great.
And this was inspired by his growing up in Virginia. So what he wanted to do was, after the comic strip idea went away, he decided that he was going to start writing children's book series. So he wants to make Doug successful. He's going to make this character a success, whether one way or the other. But children's publishers again were not interested.
Yeah.
But thankfully, Nickelodeon heard about this character in this series and decided to pick up the show for an animated kind of series, right?
Right.
And Jim Jenkins stayed on as executive producer because it was his creation,
his baby, yeah.
And he knew exactly how it would work. And he was adamant that all episodes and segments had a moral and give the show a purpose. Which
absolutely.
Was a great idea. I mean, I know a lot of people see this cartoon as a square cartoon.
Sure.
Considering what was out there, but this was kind of the yang. You had the yangs, and now you needed the yang to it. Sure. And by making this autobiographical and making every episode have a point, it was easy to make it good. Because every kid has got that embarrassing story in their back pocket.
Yeah. It's back to the relatable point. Just like they're not like trying to chop wood with the saw that looks like a phallus off of someone's back. I mean, they're
right.
like dealing with a school bully or like trying to get tickets to a concert or it's just stuff that like we all go through.
Yeah, I think this show was geared towards 7 to 12-year-olds, which is why it came across as a little, I don't want to say naive, but a little more childish based, a little more childish.
Sure. Yeah, that was its target for sure. Yeah, so that for the early teenagers, it probably would come off as kiddie.
Yeah.
So I get that, but for me, like if you were 8, I was 9, 10, somewhere around there. So we were both kind of in that spot for that, definitely.
Yeah, and that's why it resonated with us, But Jenkins stayed on as a producer and wanted these episodes to have morals and a point. And this was due to Jenkins' religious beliefs. Jenkins is a staunch Christian, and he realized the limitation of making an all-Christian show. Yeah. So he left Doug's faith as ambiguous.
Right.
But on episodes based on a Sunday, they would all be dressed in, fancy clothes.
Right.
So the assumption was they'd just come back from church and this is happening today,
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to be said about that. Like, the people that there's people that want you to know they're a Christian, and they'll just tell you they're a Christian.
Yeah.
Then there's people that'll show you that they're a Christian,
Yes.
and he's obviously one of those people, the latter, because I mean you can say you're one all you want, but you can kind of watch this and feel that sort of vibe in a way,
Yeah.
like at least the wholesomeness and the morality side of it, and just the way he approaches everything with kindness and grace. And so I mean they're exhibiting the tenets of the love portion of that. So
Yeah.
it's a practicing what you preach without preaching it.
Yeah. I
So
can
yeah,
understand that. I can
it's
understand
real
that.
it's really brilliant how it's done, because it's showcasing it without shoving it down anyone's throat
Yeah.
or making it the main the center of the, you know.
It's not Veggie Tales.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like anyone of any faith could watch it and take away something positive from it, because
Absolutely.
there's morality and ethical situations, and also just, like we were saying, just everyday occurrences that so it's anyone could get a pointer from it regardless of what they believe.
WWDD. What would Doug do?
What would Doug do?
Yeah.
That's powerful, man, really, because if you think about him, just his mindset and the way that he approached things very carefully, and he the daydreaming part was really psychoanalyzation, if you think about it. Like he was, maybe not complete psychoanalysis, but a form of analyzation where he was playing through scenarios in his head
Yeah.
against something that he was about to face. So yeah, I mean, I think we all have been caught daydreaming in class or spent some time doing it. It's
Yeah.
perfectly typical to that age. So yeah, once again, spot on.
And not just Doug, who was based on Jenkins's life, but you had his the supporting cast were also based on people he knew. Like for example, Patty Mayonnaise was two different people that Jim Jenkins grew up, and
Yeah.
and in a move that spoke of a little bit of class, he informed the people, "Hey, I'm making this cartoon. This character is going to be based off of you. Is that okay?"
Right. Yeah, I'm using your likeness in a roundabout sense. Is that all right with you? Yeah, that's noble of him. Once again, walking the walk.
Yeah. So he sounds like a stand-up guy. I don't know much about him. I could look and
Sure.
he could be a scumbag for all I know. Right?
He
But
could be he could be eating dogs in Ohio.
oh goodness me!
Uh,
For those of you who don't know, we're recording this the night after the first presidential debate, and oh my word, oh my word, oh my word!
Jaw meat floor. Yeah,
I mean,
it was
it
insane.
was something. Ow, sorry about
It was a
that.
spectacle for sure.
But so this episode is coming out. Let me see, on October 19th. So, if you are an American listening to this and you're not registered to vote, go do that now.
Yeah, definitely. Regardless of what you believe, yeah, everyone needs to vote in this election.
It's an
They
election. It's one of the most important elections in American history.
can. Definitely.
So, but they're eating dogs and cats in Ohio. I could go off on a mega tangent here and say that I was surprised, but I really, really wasn't.
You expect the unexpected.
It sounded like Grandpa Simpson telling a story the whole night.
Yeah. Right.
So,
Oh God.
oh goodness me! All right, we'll step away from that because people will get mad at us.
I'm just glad it's over. Okay. Yeah. Definitely.
And it will be over in a couple of weeks, thankfully. So the show debuted at the same time as Rugrats and Ren and Stimpy, but it was overshadowed by both of those shows because of controversial humor. And again, the Rugrats was more relatable to older kids because, we all had that older bully sibling. We all had the jaded parents, you know. And so Rugrats, was not an unexpected hit. It was a hit. It deserved to be a hit.
It was multiple things with that. I mean, the babies had like they were on a different level mentally. Like
Yeah.
they were already like using logic and reasoning, and and I get the gist of it was like they were like communicating in their own baby way, but they were like they're like literally doing like complex tasks, and so I mean it's like they're like superhuman in a way. So there's some suspension of this. That's a suspension of disbelief there, but I think that's what made it appealing,
And,
because it was like look at this dude. He's gonna pull a screwdriver out of his diaper and pop out of that. Oh, look at him
look at
go!
him go.
Yeah, yeah.
And then of course Ren and Stimpy was Jesus, Ren and Stimpy was Ren and Stimpy.
It was.
I couldn't
can't
watch
believe
it.
I can't believe it was for kids, man. Like reflecting on it now, I'm just like, wow, my mom let me watch this.
I mean, I couldn't watch it. I mean, I'm like I said, I've mentioned several times, I'm ADD, and that was even too ADD for me.
It's aggressive. I mean, we talked about it briefly in one of the like one of the lists that we made.
Yeah.
But you said aggressive, and then I said, yeah, it's in your face.
Yes.
And I think that's the best two ways to describe it. So yeah, I think it's designed to be a little bit off-putting. So I think this one of the reasons this emerged through the crowded room was because it was a good palate cleanser.
Yes.
It was sensible. It was, again, approachable. It was, just a regular guy in a random town, living his life, struggling and thriving just the way that we do in waves.
So this was a hit. This did have a fan base and critic base. Critics loved the show. The fans that it did have loved the show because it wasn't pulling in the numbers that Ren and Stimpy was pulling in, and it wasn't pulling in the numbers that the Rugrats was pulling in. So it was considered weak, and I disagree with that. I think the morality of the episode stood up to everything.
Yeah.
And it lasted for 4 seasons, 52 episodes.
Decent run.
But after Nickelodeon cancelled it, it was bought by Disney. Now, You take a show that has all the hallmarks of being a good moral show. It's unique in a way. There's no other show on TV like it. So what do? Well, do you A, keep what was working and try and enhance on it, or B, strip away everything that made it unique and made it just another cartoon? And that's what Disney did. I mean, it went from 2 segments an episode to 1 segment an episode. So it went from an 11-minute think piece to a 30-minute cartoon.
Saga.
Yeah. The things that made it stand out were removed, like the daydreaming, the diary. The whole point of Roger's character was he was a bully because he was lashing out at his socioeconomic status, right?
You took some comorbidity there.
Yeah, he was from the wrong side of the tracks. He was dirt poor, broken home, and then they made his mother a lottery winner.
Okay.
Yeah. So
he's the rich scumbag. Just different end of the spectrum.
We can't have poor people lashing out as bullies. We better make him a rich kid that way. I mean, nobody had that rich kid bully at school. They all had the kid from the broken... and I'm not saying that every kid from a broken home and the wrong side of the tracks is going to turn out to be a bully. But,
right.
It was relatable because that's what every kid had experienced. At least one kid had a bully that was coming from a troubled background, and the only reason that kid was a bully was because of the troubled background.
Oh, yeah. At one time, I can speak on that. When I was in high school in Arizona, I was sitting against a wall, just eating my lunch, minding my own business, and some dude that I just knew from passing from class just came up to me and just started screaming at me. He's like, "Hey man, I heard you were talking crap, and I'm ready to fight you." And I was like, "Whoa, dude, who are you?"
Yeah.
Like, he's just like got really, really aggressive and tried to like bully me. I was like, yeah, you just need to leave me alone. Like I'm not bothering anyone. I'm not bothering you.
Yeah.
But yeah, that kind of stuck with me that he just like jumped and got in my face. Yeah. So yeah, we've all got a story like that. So
yeah,
for him to, open up his experiences a little bit, that takes a little bit of courage, I'd offer.
And the character was vulnerable too. And then when they changed it to a snobby rich kid, all the vulnerability went away.
Yeah,
it killed the character.
The character, like when they reassembled it, they dismantled the core of what made it good.
Yeah,
it lost its credibility essentially.
Well, not only that, they lost Billy West too.
Oh yeah, he's one of the best,
one of the greatest voice actors of all time. Going back to our former president real quick, One of the things that Billy West has been doing on Twitter has been reading Trump rants in the voice of Zach Brannigan.
Wasn't that originally done by what's his name? The late great voice actor. Started SNL guy.
Oh, I know who you mean. And if you hadn't,
The Simpsons. Yeah. Anyway, I think he did the original voice. I'm totally brain farting on his name.
He was supposed to do the voice of Brannigan, but when he died,
Phil Hartman.
Yeah, that's why Fry's named Philip Fry. That's the tribute.
Oh, okay, that's great.
So they were going to have him come in and play Zach Brannigan, and then when he was killed, they got Billy Weston to do it instead.
Okay, so that might have been a tip of the hat then, because that just totally feels like his style. You know, that just the energy of that is very, Phil Hartman-esque.
Yes, Phil Hartman was a comic genius.
Yeah, he gone tragically and way too soon.
Yes. I still to this day look at the Chris Farley, David Spade sketch. The dude lives in a van down by the river.
Oh yeah.
And just his reaction to the whole thing. He's trying to keep the straight face because he's the model pro, and he is failing miserably.
He's losing it. Yeah.
Especially when Farley jumps through the table.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's probably one of the best skits they ever did.
Oh yeah, definitely. So, critics were not impressed with the Disney version, and the fans weren't impressed with the Disney version, and the show ended in 1999 after being cancelled due to low viewership. So, big smorgasbord basically of the background of the show. It's basically it's, for lack of a better term, it's a Christian-based show with a moral message that's relatable to kids, again, about between the ages of 8 and 12.
Yeah.
And and when I first started watching it, like I said, I was in that age range. So I grew out of that age range around about the time the Disney show happened too. So who knows?
Yeah,
that might have another reason why I don't like the Disney version.
Yeah, I remember checking it out, and like I said this before in one of the other podcasts, it's like, whoa, Doug's on Disney? Okay, cool. And then I watched it for like 5 minutes. I was like, this is not Doug. Click. No. But I was also probably 13, 14 at the time, so I was watching MTV and like
Beavis
playing guitar. Beavis and Butthead. Yeah, I was doing other stuff, so I probably just didn't get a true chance, honestly. But when you describe the parts of it that they removed, that makes it sound way less appealing from what it was.
Yeah, because Patty was like, typical young woman at that time, right? She was a nerd. She was, whatever, and they turned her into a soulless cheerleader. Because that's what a good show with morals needs, is a cheerleader and a rich jock.
See, they just gutted it essentially. Yeah. They just gutted their assets completely, and they tried to like grow, like build off of it, and they ended up just like shooting themselves in the foot apparently.
Oh yeah, both barrels. So we've talked a little bit about the series, but what is the series actually about? Okay, the series revolves around Doug Funny, an 11-year-old boy who wants to be another face in the crowd. But by possessing a vivid imagination and a strong sense of right and wrong, he is more than likely to stand out. He keeps a journal, which he treats as an autobiography, as he recalls numerous experiences over the series, which range from learning to dance to getting a bad haircut. Doug and his family moved from the town of Bloatsburg to Bluffington after his dad received a job promotion. So he's a new kid in town.
Yep, that's another. Every kid is going to have to go through something like that at some point.
Yeah.
We all have to move, or even if you're not moving houses, sometimes when you go to a new school, like heck, even when you go from like elementary up to middle, or middle to high, I mean, you can still, still feel like the new kid.
Oh yeah, for years, right? My first two schools that I went to, they sorted the class up by age, right? So if everybody born from September to March was in one class, and from March to September in the other class. And it was like that for 7 years. And then when I went to the next school, they just threw us all in, basically pulled names out of a hat and said, okay, you're in this form, and so on and so forth. So, like, you were separated from the guys and gals you were close with growing up, from a young age, and then you had to make new friends or New Earth, right? It was a big upheaval.
Yeah, it's having to start over almost. Yeah.
Yeah, and that happened for me around about 11. So, because that's when we moved to high school in the UK is at age 11.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
But we only stay to 16, so
Okay.
that's all the legal school that you have to do in the UK is up to 16. So
Okay.
can't get away with that over here. You've got to go to 18 over here.
Yeah, or you gotta formally drop out.
Yeah,
or whatever at a certain age.
Which is what Roger Klotz would probably do if he hadn't won the lottery.
Probably he can buy his grades now, huh?
Yeah, right. So who's in this thing? Well, you got Doug, played by Billy West, as we mentioned. Billy West is one of the finest voice actors of a generation.
Versatile, very. Some versatile voice actors don't like have a specialization, so to speak. Like they can just do lots of different voices.
Yeah.
But there's a few of them that can do a bunch of voices and do them well. I would argue him, Billy West, and also Robin Williams was a guy like that.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Yeah, there's only a handful of them that can really pull it off and create voices too, like workshop and create their own voices, which is what Billy West did for these two characters, and they're spot on.
Yeah, not only did he do Doug, he actually was Ren and Stimpy.
Yes, yeah. He does. It's interesting. He does a lot of like Nancy Cartwright from The Simpsons.
Yeah.
She has conversations with herself, switching back and forth between it's like Ralphie and whoever, So yeah, that's talent right there to be able to move from each frame of mind and accent and approach. Yeah.
There is a podcast that unfortunately was a paid podcast that I never got to listen to, and it was hosted by Rob Colson, who does the voice of Yakko Warner and Pinky and the Brain, Pinky, and he would have people on there. He'd have voice actors on there, and his closing joke of the show would be to hand him a script. And the script would be, I'll take an example. Nancy Cartwright played Hannibal Lecter as Ralphie.
Right.
I would eat his liver, So he'd get the voice out to pull the voices out, but you've got to read this script, and you were Darth Vader for this one.
Right. Okay.
So, and it was really, really funny. It really, really was. Listen to some of these mashups. And Billy West was on there, and I can't remember what they did, unfortunately. So, but
yeah, who knows with him? He's got a big resume.
He's got a big resume. I think he did another Zapp Brannigan thing. He had to have done Zapp Brannigan because that's probably one of his biggest characters now. What most people know him for, at least, anyway.
Synonymous with it, almost, yeah.
Yeah, so Doug is played by Billy West. Doug is an 11-year-old kid who struggles daily with his fear of failure. The show is centered around him and his sense of morality, as well as his vivid imagination. Music plays a large part in his life as he plays the banjo, as well as his dog, Porkchop. That's a real weird segue, John. Doug narrates each episode as he recounts his experience in his diary. He also has an alternate ego named Quail Man. He has an obvious crush on Patty Mayonnaise and is best friends with Skeeter. Yeah. So aside from the grammar about he plays the banjo and his dog, I should really read over these more before I print them out. But every kid at that age, had a hobby, imagination, and a pet.
Yeah, it's some standard issue kid stuff.
Yeah. And he was an 11-year-old with a crush. Everybody had a crush at 11. Sure. Especially boys having a crush at 11. Because,
Sure. Totally.
So, there's Porkchop, who's Doug's anthropomorphic pet dog, who is one of Doug's sidekicks and accompanies him nearly everywhere he goes. Sometimes he assists Doug in making decisions and acts as his conscience. Porkchop is very talented in many things, such as acting, and he lives in an igloo-shaped doghouse.
Yeah, Porkchop, he's very helpful. He has thumbs. And he's a bit of a Renaissance dog. Like he's good at pretty much everything, like on the spot.
Yeah.
Really, he's a plot device to kind of fill in some gaps here and there.
Yeah.
Which I think is clever. Using a familiar sort of anthropomorphic, as you put it, entity. I think that's it was good because he did often act as support, encouragement, etc. So yeah,
there's a book that I love called Last Human, right? It's a book in the Red Dwarf series, And this is going to sound like a tangent, but it's not. I'm going to pull it on. I'm going to tie it back. And in one of the chapters, the last human, Lister, for those of you who know Red Dwarf, you know what I'm talking about, summons the mechanoid Crichton in like a being that is a shapeshifter, right?
Right.
And he asks him questions like, can you function as the real Crichton would? And he says, well, you only ask him for help and answers for questions that you already know the answers to. You just need somebody else to back you up, to give you confidence in your own opinion. And that's how I see Porkchop. Whenever he asks him, Porkchop, he asks Porkchop questions that he already has the answer to, but he wants a cosigner.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, but he goes beyond that too. He'll often show him the way or help him prepare for something, because he's like that's a hard word.
Yes.
Yeah, a dog with human-like qualities. Like, I would pay any amount of money for a dog that had that much utility. I mean,
yes.
Just insane.
Well, dogs think that humans are elves.
Really?
This immortal being who lives longer, who's alive before I was born and will be alive after I'm dead. So dogs think that we're elves.
We're Vulcans. Yeah. Absolutely.
Now, I didn't realize that Skeeter's first name really was Mosquito.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who names that kid Mosquito?
I don't know. Like, you figured that his dad, like his dad is kind of uptight and his mom is kind of wacky. Yeah. So maybe like she just really wanted it, and he was like, fine, whatever, leave me alone, I'm reading my paper. Because he's always like reading the paper, like every time you see him.
Yeah. Hang on one second. I'm checking something out. Okay, yeah, it is the same guy. Yeah, Fred Newman plays Skeeter. And he's done everything from being a sound effect artist to a comedian to a composer to a talk show host.
Wow, he's got a big resume.
Big range. And the only thing I know him from is Doug.
Huh.
So then you have Patty Mayonnaise, which is played by Constance Shulman. Patty is an intelligent, talented, athletic girl who is Doug's female best friend and love interest.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm looking at her. I looked her up because the name sounded familiar. She was she's known for Orange is the New Black.
Oh, okay.
So she's got a big role in that. I'm looking at, there's a photo of her from it. It's like, okay, yeah, that's where I know her from. That's a good series.
Nice. She's kind, she's helpful, but does have weaknesses such as a tendency to be overcompetitive and being gullible and to anger easily if pushed too far. Again, we're all quick to anger when we're pushed to the limit, you know?
Yeah. She was really nice. That's maybe too nice sometimes, and I don't want to say that like she put herself in those situations, but like she let people go too far to get her to that point. If that makes sense. She was easily
manipulated.
Yeah, in a way, like her kindness was almost a weakness in a way.
Yeah, I can see that. Then you have Roger Klotz, who's played by Billy West also. Roger's Doug's green skin nemesis and school bully. He's not much of a bully, however. He usually makes fun of everyone and plays practical jokes. He's older than the others in his class because it took him 3 years to graduate from the 6th grade. Roger has a crush on Doug's sister Judy and in certain episodes tries to woo her. Roger and his divorced mother live in poverty in a trailer park. That adds to his character. I'm sorry. You know.
Yeah.
It makes it relatable.
Yep, we all know people that were in similar situations.
And there's nothing wrong with being poor living in a trailer park.
No.
There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. But you can see how it would frustrate some people and have them lash out, you know?
Yeah, certainly, especially if that's the kind of treatment they're receiving at home.
And the biggest main character that we've got left is Judy, which is Doug's sister. Judy's very intelligent, especially dramatic. She attends the Moody School, a school for artistically talented teenagers. She's usually seen wearing purple and black and rarely takes off her beret or sunglasses, so she's a beatnik.
Yeah, big time.
Big time beatnik. And there are other characters that are in there, that Doug's neighbors. You know, you see his parents from time to time and everything like that, but those 6 or 7 are the main.
That's the core, yeah.
That's the core of it, you know.
You have a couple others like Mr. Dink.
Yes, I forgot his name for a minute.
Yeah, the neighbor, Mr. Dink. He's hilarious.
Yes.
He's very, he would be an Apple guy at that show earlier today. Hey, Douglas, look at this new Apple grill I got. Yeah, that guy tripped me out. But yeah, I would call him minor. Anybody outside the circle, I would consider minor. And even calling Patty a major. I guess you could, because his crush is a consistent theme throughout every episode, no matter what's happening. Yeah, so that's good.
Yeah, maybe Judy's not the biggest character, but because Roger tries to get on her all the time, it's maybe that's not the best choice of phrase. Excuse me.
He's trying to woo her.
Trying to woo her. Excuse me. I'm tired, y'all. It's been a week. But some of the recurring themes in the show is Doug's journal. Doug would constantly keep his thoughts and dreams in his journal. The journal would actually have sequences play out, so it wasn't just him sitting in a corner writing. You'd see his imagination form in. Yeah. And, from dealing with bullies to handling his 11-year-old crush, his journal was a very, very important part of the series,
It's how he compartmentalized and kind of sorted and coped with everything. In a way.
And it also gave the animators some challenges too to produce that kind of stuff and make it look, because that's one thing about Doug. It was the traditional school and the honker burger and all that. The hangouts they were done in traditional cartoon style, right? In the same way The Simpsons was done,
Sure.
But the journal showed a vivid imagination. And then you had these weird and wacky sequences that would come from that.
Yeah.
And, it was a highlight every time he went into his journal.
Yeah, absolutely. It was one of the best parts of the show.
Also, recurring theme was Quail Man. Is Doug's superhero fantasy alter ego. I think everybody had an alter ego back in the day where they thought they were, hot stuff. It's just
It's like the subconscious part of him, like the confident part of him.
Yeah.
Just like dying to come out. That's being held back by like insecurity and fear and regret and fear of failure, like all these other themes that are presented. Yeah. So it's kind of a reflection of like, if we could fully self-actualize right now, like that's what we would be. We'd be able to do. Because Quailman, like, he does have certain powers, but his biggest power, which he always says, is his mind.
Yes.
And so that ties back to the confidence thing. It's like going into a situation with confidence versus cowering and going, oh no, what do I do? Like, it's just totally different mindset. Quailman's already dialed in. So yeah, he would be his alter ego, because that's the thing that's the thing that he wants the most, I would argue.
Definitely.
Because he's always like teetering between two positions, or trying to like find a way to have his cake and eat it too without hurting anyone. So you could have a total different podcast just on the mental like angles and approaches this show could have. I mean, it's pretty deep.
But Quailman did have a supervillain, Dr. Klotzenstein.
Yeah, it's very derivative.
Yes. I wonder who that's supposed to be. Oh yeah, it's supposed to be Roger.
Yeah. So I'm surprised they didn't follow the aesthetic there and call him Doug Man.
Doug Man, yeah.
But I like Quail Man. I like the underwear outside of the pants.
Yep.
The belt that he uses for the little
top
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's time to unleash the power of the quail.
Yep. And I liked it too because, growing up in Arizona, quails are really common.
Oh yeah?
So that was a very familiar animal for them to pick for his alter ego. So yeah, I liked that. I thought it was cool.
Oh, excuse me, hang on 1 second.
Oh, and he was able to put that together with just crap he had lying around his room.
Yes.
Like he totally DIY'd that. So that's pretty cool too.
Yeah, it was a bed sheet and a underwear over his shorts and the belt.
And he like sewed a Q onto the sheet, I think, or something like that. But so it was all like very like minimal but effective. So it was, great DIY.
Another part of Doug's life was music. And not in the way Beavis and Butthead had music, where they'd show a music video and stuff like that, but we're talking about the Beats.
Yeah, like an embedded band that was obviously based, well, in name off of the Beatles.
Yeah, only in name because the songs that they played sounded more like the Ramones.
Yeah, they were there. The music was more Alice Cooper, Ramones, kind of more like the like rock of that time.
Yeah,
But yeah, it wasn't that sort of. I mean, the Beatles had a versatile catalog, but like the hippie rock that they were known for, wasn't really so much that, and their aesthetic was more like 70s, so it was a little confusing.
yeah.
But the music that they did was pretty cool. I like that song Killer Tofu. It's very
Yes.
infectious. It's a good
That
song.
song is in like the top 5 lists of, best fictional song of all time.
Yeah,
And what I mean by that is, for people saying, well, are all songs fictional? What I mean by
sure.
that is the song only exists in a fictional world.
Yeah, it's not by a band. Like you can't go see the Beats in concert and watch them play the
Yeah.
Killer Tofu because they don't exist. They were created specifically for this show and the song specifically for the show.
Yes.
Yes.
Number
So,
one is Scotty Doesn't Know.
yeah,
Usually on those lists.
we get requests for that one at holodeck shows. And we're like, okay, one,
It's not
not a real
90s.
song, fictional song. Two, not a 90s song. And we only do the 90s, so very sorry. And three, no.
No.
Second time.
They did have 5 albums. The Beats did. Now, to be fair, the band were mentioned in a lot of these episodes, but only appeared in 5.
Yeah, they were like you would see them, they would talk about them, you would hear them listening to them in the background, you would see posters. So there was ongoing references to them, but yeah, they showed up a couple of times, and one of them, I believe, they were stopping by there
Yeah.
before a show or after, like they had a breakdown or something, and it was just all by chance. But yeah, I think they played it perfectly because if they'd been popping around all the time, it would have taken some of the mystique away.
Yes.
But having them kind of embedded in the show in the background and on T-shirts and in passing, and then to have them pop up, it was like, whoa, cool! Hey, oh, it's the Beats, man!
Yeah.
Yeah, so like you're right there with them.
It had it lessened it would lessen their impact the more they'd show up. You know what
Exactly.
I mean? If they were
It's
there
like
all the time.
it's like when you bring Fat Tony out in The Simpsons. Like
Yeah.
you have a purpose for that. You just like, hey, this is Fat Tony, and then cut to the next part of the thing. Like he's got something going on. So yeah,
Yes. It's always a Mafia episode with Fat Tony. I wonder why.
absolutely.
But the Beats would parody the Beatles in other ways. Like they had 5 albums, 3 of them called the What album, Let It Beat, and Meet the Beats.
I don't know
Nice.
about that. That's very derivative.
And they appeared in the Disney Channel version, and they split up in the Disney version because of infighting and one of the characters' girlfriends. So again, just like the Beatles.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
I'm surprised they didn't throw the like a Yoko type situation in there.
you know who was the happiest of the Beatles split? George Harrison. Like when
Why is
when they signed the paperwork to dissolve the band, they had to keep the company but dissolve the band, right? For
Right.
the legal reasons. Apparently, legend goes Harrison was skipping out of the office after he signed the paperwork
Wow.
because
Yeah,
he was done. He was
yeah,
like,
he did fine for himself afterwards, so I could see that. Yeah.
yeah. So we're not going to go into every single episode, but we're going to go into what IMDb called the top 10 episodes of Doug in reverse order. Well, not in reverse order. No, it is in reverse order. No, yeah, it in reverse order. Excuse me.
So 10-1.
10-1, yes. And the 10th episode is the first episode. Doug Can't Dance. Not the pilot episode where he just moved in and they had to get the burgers, but like the second episode where he was, this he got his leg caught in his clothes and was bouncing around like an idiot. And
Yeah.
everybody thought that was a brand new hip dance, so they all copied him.
Trendsetter.
Yes.
Yeah. See that's another theme that, like, with him, like, Doug is certainly more and worth more than he gives himself credit for.
Yes.
And I think that's something we're all guilty of because we all have something to bring to the table, something to add.
Yeah,
we're all loved by someone. We're all cared for by someone.
I think
You
that
know.
is especially amongst young men and
Yeah,
boys.
because we're supposed to be tough and we're supposed
Yeah,
to just no. I mean, there's tough and manly dudes that need cuddles
yeah.
and hugs and kisses. I mean, there's nothing girly or unmanly about it at all.
Need
Yeah,
positivity in our lives, you know.
you need to normalize getting appropriate affection if that's
Yes,
something that you desire. There's nothing wrong with a man that wants to be cuddly and stuff like that.
definitely. Episode 9 is Doug's dog date, where Doug discovers Porkchop has fallen for a pedigree job named Lila. Trying to impress her, Doug and Porkchop navigate various comedic and endearing attempts to win Lila's affection. The episode touches on the themes of love, friendships, and the length we will go to people we care about. It's a sweet story that showcases the bond between Doug and Porkchop, while reinforcing the idea that love and effort transcend social and economic boundaries.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, I'm telling you, it's deep.
yeah. So that was season 1, episode 9. Doug is the hamburger boy. Season 2, episode 6. Doug takes the role of the mascot of the Honker Burger, and he faces ridicule and embarrassment. But despite the challenges, Doug learns a valuable lesson about work ethic, pride in one's responsibilities, and the importance of not taking oneself too seriously.
Yeah, you have to when you're wearing a costume like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And and even if you are wearing a costume like that, have fun with it, you know?
Yeah, I mean it's a job. I mean, it's not beneath you, especially if
No.
it's your first job. It's an opportunity.
And I'm not saying those people, the actors who dress up as Winnie the Pooh in Disney, need to take pride in their work and be happy. Dang it! I'm just talking about like if you're a teenager getting your first job and they put you in a costume. It could be worse. You could be dressed up at the Statue of Liberty outside a tax place, waving a sign that says "tax refunds here."
Right. Or you could be a small, barely clothed African child who's just desperately searching for clean water. So there's also that.
There's also that.
So I
Swings
try
and
to think of that.
roundabouts.
I try to think of that sometimes when I'm, getting greedy or yeah, just like it could be worse. It could
Could
be
be worse.
absolutely way worse. So
The next episode is Doug's Dental Disaster.
oh boy,
Season 2,
yes.
episode 11.
We've all had one of those.
Oh, I'm terrified of the dentist, even to this day.
I recently watched this one. He really overblows this one, but it's not because he's a wuss. It's because he's just inexperienced.
Yeah.
He's naive. He doesn't. He's just he goes. When Doug daydreams, sometimes he does rumination,
Yeah.
where he just imagines the worst possible thing. Is like the dentist comes out with this huge drill. He's like, ha, 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 and there's like people like all like
Laughing in the
with
background.
chainsaws or something. It's always the worst possible scenario. So he's his own worst enemy in this one, but it's really just his overactive imagination and his innocence, his naivete. So
Doug's Christmas Story, Season 4, Episode 12. A heartwarming episode where Doug must prove Porkchop's innocence after he's accused of attacking Bibi, the wealthy daughter of Bluffington's mayor. The episode takes a serious turn as Doug and his friends gather evidence of Porkchop's defense, showing themes of justice, friendship, and the spirit of giving. It culminates in the touching conclusion that brings the community together and highlights the bond between Doug and Porkchop.
yeah, they were ready to eat him after that one. Yeah, I mean his name is Pork Chop, so he already sounds delicious. So I mean, it's just
Especially if he's in Springfield, Ohio.
this next one's really good. I like I like that they addressed this in an episode.
Doug's big nose.
Yeah, because it's definitely a unit of a nose.
Yeah, it's a big one. After a picture day mishap, Doug's become self-conscious about the size of his nose. His insecurity leads to a series of imaginative and humorous scenarios where he imagines life with a different nose. The episode explores themes of self-acceptance and the realization that everyone has insecurities. Doug learns an important lesson about self-image and the value of embracing one's unique qualities.
Yeah, that's a big one because I think it's really easy to get alienated in that respect when you're a kid because like we all have flaws, and to us we have personal flaws that we feel stand out more than others.
Yeah.
So when people pinpoint that, it sucks. But what I've realized is like, okay, Okay, quick tangent here. I knew a guy in like 7th grade. It was a friend of mine for a little while. Good looking guy, athletic, got good grades. Really wasn't a lot to make fun of him about, so to speak. But his family had a lot of money. So, oh, hey, rich boy, rich boy.
Yeah.
Oh, you go drive your Lamborghini over to the butler's house, rich boy. It was just, and so for me, I was slightly overweight. So I was like, hey, fat boy,
Yeah.
fat guy, blah, 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 blah. And what I realized eventually was, okay, well, she's getting made fun of for this. He's getting made fun of for that. I'm getting made fun of. We're all being made fun of for something.
Yeah.
So who cares? I mean, it's just the age. So it's big about just accepting who you are. It's a big one.
My high school nickname was Twiggy because I weighed 60 pounds soaking wet. And it's hard to tell these days because of my love of, but I was a very, very underweight child.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd eat like a horse, but I was very, very, my metabolism kind of like took a nosedive when I hit 16.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
that was my school nickname because I was very, very thin. First time I heard it, I didn't even know they were talking about me.
Yeah. We had a guy like that in 4th grade, and my teacher ironically nicknamed him Tubby. So that was his name, was Tubby. He was not a fan.
There must be some law written down where if you see someone big, you call them something like tiny.
Yeah, yeah. Little John. Yeah.
We had a drummer that we were auditioning in the band was 6'4" at 19, and he was ducking to get out of doorways, and my dad just called him tiny the whole night, and he did not appreciate
shorty.
that. Number 4, Doug meets Roboborn. Doug's excitement to meet his idol Roboborn turns to disappointment when his reality doesn't match his expectations. The episode cleverly addresses the idea of idolization, and the realization that heroes can have flaws. Stories about disillusionment, but also about the understanding and empathy as Doug learns to appreciate his idol's human side.
Yeah, there was an episode of Saved by the Bell where the big rock or movie star came to the campus, and he was gonna like film a commercial there, and he was all getting sweet with Kelly and chumming it up with Slater and everybody. It was all good, and they were getting ready to do it, and then Zach goes in the bathroom and sees that he's smoking a joint. He just like he's just totally totally disappointed in him, just like tarnished his legacy. But yeah, it is the thing. It's like everybody that you think is a hero has screwed up at some point or has character flaws, character defects. It's just part of being human. It's really easy to put people on a pedestal. So that's another good like life nugget right there.
When I watched this episode, I was immediately reminded of King of the Hill episode where he meets George W. Bush and he shakes his hand with a limp handshake.
Yeah.
And that's a crisis of confidence right there with the limp handshake.
Yeah, just knowing that he's gonna know him as the guy that did that for the rest of his days. Yeah.
Episode 3, Doug's Doodle, season 1, episode 11. Doug's accidental doodle of his teacher, Mrs. Wingo, leads to a series of misunderstandings and a lesson in honesty. Trying to hide his mistake only compounds his troubles, teaching Doug and the viewers about the consequences of dishonesty and the importance of owning up to one's actions. The episode is a humorous take on fear of getting in trouble and the relief that comes with telling the truth.
Yeah, more rumination there as he daydreams in the beginning of some of the beginning segments. Him, I can't remember exactly what, but I remember him, it was just worst case scenario, fire and brimstone, skies falling. And it actually turned out to be, she actually turned out to be pleased with the drawing, if I'm not mistaken. Like that was the flip on it. Yeah, so if he'd have just owned up to it in the very beginning, it would have been fine. And he actually made it worse by
lying.
Yeah, by covering it up and drawing it out.
But I think every kid has had that phrase told to them, you won't be in trouble if you tell me the truth.
Yeah, my son needs to watch this show, man. He could use some of these pointers.
Oh, goodness me. Episode 2, Doug's Hot Ticket, season 3, episode 1. Doug and Skeeter go to great lengths to see their favorite rock band, The Beats. Their adventure is filled with challenges, ultimately testing their friendship and determination. This episode,
like Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah. This episode is a testament to the power of friendship and the memories created through shared experiences. It's a fun and exciting start to the third season, capturing the essence of childhood adventures and the bonds that form through them. Yeah, Dumb and Dumber. Dumb and Dumber is what I thought when I first saw that episode too.
When they realized that they had driven in the wrong direction and they split up, and then Lloyd comes back on the scooter
that he traded the van for.
Yeah, and he appears to be mad, but he flips his tone and he's excited, and they're good to go again. Yeah.
And the top episode of Doug, as told by IMDb, is Doug's Bad Trip. Doug takes acid on a road trip. No, I'm just kidding.
Dirty acid from the bad dealer downtown.
He sees dragons and lizards all night long. No. Doug's Bad Trip. This season finale sees Doug and his family on a road trip to the Painted Gorge, which turns out to be less an exciting adventure Doug anticipated. Through a series of misadventures, Doug learns to appreciate the time spent with his family, finding joy in the unexpected. Ironically, this episode wraps up the Nickelodeon year of Doug on a note of growth and familial bonds, emphasizing that the theme that sometimes the journey is more important than the destination. So it's a good way to wrap up Nickelodeon's, with their best episode ever.
Yeah. That was a really good one. That showed like just everything that they had learned, and as they made the show, the show was doing really well, and as far as the way they developed all the characters and like the direction of it, they had all that figured out. Yeah, definitely.
Well, Nickelodeon canceled the show at 52 episodes, so that was a tough one to a lot of the fans to take. And Nick had, even though the show was critically acclaimed, Nick had like this idea that it was going to be getting in hundreds of thousands of viewers every day. And It did get hundreds of thousands of viewers, but it was on the lower end of what they needed to keep the show alive. And again, Ren and Stimpy, the Rugrats, outperformed Doug in terms of popularity. That led to kind of a boom period for Nickelodeon with gross-out shows. And
it was the barf era of cartoons, definitely.
And then Cartoon Network came along around about that time and started its own brand of stupid cartoons. Some good cartoons, but some real intelligence scratches.
It was throw it to the wall and see what'll stick.
Yeah.
Honorable mention though, if I could, real quick, for the top 10. This one, I just think the title is crazy, and I'm really glad that they put it in the order that it's in, because it would be even worse. So, season 4, episode 7, the first one is called Doug Runs. The second one is called Doug Clobbers Patty. So it just sounds bad. It sounds like Doug just slapped her, just punched her, and then so if they had made it the other way around, Doug Clobbers Patty, Doug Runs. But it would have been looked even worse. So I already don't. When I saw that, I was like, wow, that just screams like domestic violence, just the way that's worded. So I always thought that was hilarious, and I wish they would have put it in the other order, because that would have been even more hilarious.
Doug does a Peter Pan right off of this dam right here after being chased by Tommy Lee Jones.
Right.
That's a movie that I haven't got on my list of things to cover, by the way, which is a shame, because that's a dang good movie.
Yeah, there's a bunch that I'd love to do but aren't part of the 90s cornucopia. So we got just pretty much that decade with a little bit of bleed over, but not much. So some really good stuff we've got coming up next couple of years. Actually, I've got the next 2 seasons planned out already. So okay, cool.
Yeah, I might even have the start of a 3rd season on top of that. So there's a lot of stuff going on. But Ren and Stimpy and Rugrats outperformed Doug in everything, in terms of viewership, in terms of merchandise, in terms of VHS sales.
Oh yeah.
So Nickelodeon canceled it. The rights were picked up by Disney, and as we've mentioned, the show went through a dramatic retooling, Patty went from a strong, independent woman to a cheerleader. Roger went from a kid from the wrong side of the tracks in poverty to a snobby rich kid after a real estate deal with a wealthy family in town. And the message portion of the show went out the window, becoming just another cartoon. And that right there is why I think people look down on this cartoon.
Yeah.
Because of the second half of it. Because there were more episodes produced by Disney than there were by Nickelodeon.
Really?
Yes. There were 64 episodes produced by Disney. And it was a 22-minute format as opposed to two 11-minute formats.
Okay, so yeah, like double or more.
Yeah, so they had to have a longer plot, and they had to do more character depth, and it didn't need all of that. It just needed a kid daydreaming. That's all it needed. That was the essence of the show. You know, you might as well have made this Recess, which was a god-awful cartoon.
Yeah, it wasn't a lot to it. It was very just... There wasn't a lot going on.
No. So, you know, yeah. I mean, the legacy's seen in a couple of different ways, right? On the one hand, it seems a show that shows kids their worth, that their feelings and situation could change at any moment, and they could be fine. But on the other hand, it was overshadowed by Rugrats and Ren and Stimpy.
It was a crowded room.
Yeah.
And I think it you know, we talked before about, like, last time we recorded Independence Day, about how that one was in kind of a similar situation. It was a very crowded room, like action thrillers and sci-fi thrillers at the time. But if you look at it, if you isolate it and just look at it for what it is now, it definitely has merit. It definitely deserves to be considered one of the best of that era, if not the best of all time.
Yeah, I mean,
just because of everything it does.
We ranked it as one of the top cartoons of the era. You know, because it was. And we ranked the Disney version one of the worst cartoons of the era because it was. You know, I mean, Disney's version not only made the original series look redundant, but I'd argue it ruined the reputation of it.
Tarnished it a little bit.
Yeah. Not even a little bit. I'd say completely and utterly ruined it.
I don't even consider it a part of the canon.
Me neither.
I mean, it's kind of like there's... I don't know if you watch much of The Office, but you know that there's still a lot of huge fan base for that.
Oh yeah.
And there's like all these groups of people that fall into different categories. That you have the purists that watch the entire series, but then you have the Michaels, where they only watch up until Michael leaves and then they start it over. And then you have other people that it's like somewhere in between, like they're fine with it all, but they don't feel like it has to be like one or the other. Like they can commingle or whatever.
I got you. And it's just, you know, I seriously can't hide my disdain for it. I really can't, because there's very few things I've spoken about on this podcast that I've disliked or I've said negative things about, because I want to relive some of the happier moments of my teenage years and my childhood and everything like that. Yeah. But when you have something that you enjoyed stripped away and repackaged as, you know, this is the equivalent of Coca-Cola or New Coke.
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand why they had to hitch their wagon onto the Doug legacy to do that. They could have just started their own thing. You know,
made the same show.
You just not gotten Doug involved. I mean, I wonder if that would have stood on its own without the Doug wagon attached to it, because that's what drug it down. Yeah,
and you know, it's shame. You know, it really, really is a shame. But we've got these 52 episodes that were produced by Nickelodeon that are some of the best. You know, I mean, look, right? As we said at the beginning of this episode, and we said a couple of times too, this show might be seen as boring, but it was relatable.
Yeah.
You know, and we all could identify with one or two of the characters.
Yeah.
And
or we knew one of those characters in our personal life.
Yes, and every character had depth, and every character, even you know, the goofy neighbor had a little bit of depth to him, you know? They all had depth. Definitely. They all had characteristics that made them stand out. And I just feel like Disney tore that down. Which is why, you know, I'm not a fan of Disney cartoons, because they're not that good. There are some that did come out later on after they changed directors, studio, and stuff like that. You know, like Kim Possible. My kids love that, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, this is just another attempt to do something, and it just didn't work off. And then it was all okay. Well, it didn't work. We're just gonna cancel it now.
Yeah, they were just it's like buying a company and then trying to run it, like taking away from it all the things that made it awesome
Yeah,
and then wondering why it failed. Um, okay, like for instance, one of the there's a place in town here that's known for its margaritas.
yeah,
Like they sell thousands of those things every day. Like say someone bought it and they were like, we're gonna sell cotton candy now.
yeah.
And they'd be like, what?
Where's my margarita?
Yeah, here, cotton candy?
No.
No. Okay, we're gonna go down the street and get margaritas from them.
Yeah,
Why is everyone leaving?
because you're not
So
doing
yeah,
margaritas anymore.
it's shocking to me that they just yanked the rug out from the core of that franchise and expected it to flourish. I mean, they flooded the market with tons of episodes to try to make it stick, and
Just
we're
didn't.
here disavowing it.
Right?
You know, like
I mean,
like
30 years later, we're sitting here going, that was crap.
yeah, definitively. Yeah, I knew it then and I know it now. So
So, but that is Doug, everybody. If you've got kids who are between the ages of 7 and 13, 8 and 12, something around those areas, find it on, I think it's Paramount Plus.
Paramount Plus, yeah, that's why I was watching it.
Find it. Make them watch it. It's real good. It shows real good morality, and it teaches the kids lessons that they need to know. They're not going to teach these lessons at school, and they're not going to listen to us as parents trying to give them these lessons either. But if they see something else, because kids are like that, they don't listen to their parents most of the time when it comes to life lessons, But, and I say that from my 20 years being a parent. So it's, they won't listen to you, but they listen through something else. So make sure you get them to watch it.
Yeah, sometimes multiple sources help because then they're like, oh, okay, well they aren't just saying that just to try to destroy my life. It actually has merit, and
Yes.
I'm seeing it happen and right. Okay, well maybe that does make sense.
Yes.
Yeah, so a little bit of reinforcement, if anything, or just a light bulb moment for the first time. Either way, yeah, sure.
Yes. So, Greg, it has been awesome to have you on. We will be back here in a few minutes, but I've got more information about next week's episode, and I've got information about the 90s Gamer that you don't want to miss if you're a fan of the 90s Gamer.
Sweet.
So, I'll be back here in a few minutes. Greg will be back here soon, and we'll talk to you in a while. Take it easy, everybody. Sincere thank you to Gregg Gregory for coming on the show this week. I know he's been a little busy lately with some stuff going on, and it's always a pleasure to have him on board, and it's always well, I don't say an honor, because that may be going too far, but it's always nice when he takes time out of his day to come and talk to us. That's really good. As you can hear, I'm a little sick right now, so I apologize. We recorded the episode a couple of days ago, and I'm now getting around to recording this part, so I sound a little off, so I apologize for that. Greg will be back next week as we talk about the Foo Fighters debut album, Foo Fighters. I know Dave Grohl is in the news right now, not in a good way either. His cheating has come out to light, and he is not having a good time with it. His reputation is a little bit tarnished. Of course, people who were paying attention in the 90s knew that this is not the first time that it happened. But Dave is coming back. We're bringing Dave back to the origins of Foo Fighters, and this is basically a Dave Grohl solo project. He didn't have a band together or anything like that yet. He just had a week in a recording studio and belted out as many songs as he could, playing all the instruments himself, producing it, and it's a really, really good album. but we're going to go into depth of why it's an emotional album, and it's a very, very cathartic album as well, okay? Now, what's a nightmare that we all face? Well, in the 60s, it was nuclear war. Why do I bring that up? Well, starting December 3rd, the 90s Gamer will be back as we play Fallout, a post-nuclear role-playing game. Yes, the original Fallout game. I'm going to learn to play it in the next couple of days and hopefully have something that's palatable for you. It is worthy of the 90s Gamer. I also have a backup plan that I want to finish New and Tasty. So I'm going to finish New and Tasty at some point. That'll probably be my next project. And I'm not going to do it in episodic form like I usually do. I'm going to do a couple of long form videos. So it'll just be me playing and chatting away like I was live, but I'm actually going to be recording and then broadcasting it over our YouTube channel. So that's it for this week. I hope you guys had a fun week. Hope you guys did all the things you wanted to do. I hope you weren't sick, like I've been. It's taken a long time to get this finished, man. But if you like what we see, go check out becausemaybepodcast.com. That's where you find our archive of everything we've ever done, ever. It's going through an upgrade right now, so maybe some episodes will be missed, but everything will be uploaded on there in the near future. Go check out our YouTube channel. Yes, our YouTube channel. That's where you'll find all of the episodes that we've done in terms of the video game series and most of the podcasts that we've done, and a little bit of a couple of fun things here and there that are not really related to us, but, just things that we put up, like my vlog diary of Hurricane Laura from a few years ago. And of course, if you stumble across this podcast on a podcast service you don't listen to, we are on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Podchaser, Pandora, YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Podbean, or Amazon Music, okay? And that is that. I've got to go rest my throat, guys, because it's starting to get a little yucky. So I will see you next week. Greg will be back, and we're going to have some more music in our lives. So I want everybody to love one another, be nice, eat your vegetables, eat whatever you want. Just be nice to people. Be kind, okay? That's one of the themes that I like from doing this, is just to be kind, okay? And I'm rambling because I'm sick. So I'm going to go rest my throat. Take it easy, everybody. Bye.